Welcome back to another edition of the TwinSpires Jury. I'm filling in for Ashley in the host chair this week, joined by James Scully. And Kyle Hampton did such a great job a couple of weeks ago that we're bringing him back in out of the bullpen to step in here and be our third panelist, as we're going to take a look at actually the three races that comprise the Turf Pick 3 at Keeneland on Saturday. There was a slew of stakes races last weekend, a little bit lighter on the stakes scene, but some great action at Keeneland, even on those undercards. So we're going to take a look at those. We're going to go over our spot fades of the weekend as well, talk about upcoming tournaments and promotions. A lot to get to, gentlemen, so we're going to dive right in. The first leg of this Keeneland Turf Pick 3 starts in race number 5. It is a maiden special weight, going 5.5 on the turf for the 2-year-old fillies. James, let's kick it off with you. Who do you like?
Yeah, we get a lot of first-time starters in this field, but I'm going to go with one with experience. Number 10, Scully, is a 2-year-old Florida-bred filly by Leinster, and she debuted at Ellis Park. I thought, broke from the rail post that day, had a little bit of a claustrophobic and tight trip. Really served as a good educational experience, finishing third that day. I thought she took a step forward against a filly that just ran a terrific race last time at Kentucky Downs. I thought that maiden race on September 6th, the opening race on that Saturday program, was a very deep field. We'll see Triskelion. She comes up and is in position to try to get past Sadie Earp. She just can't quite get past her. But that Sadie Earp that defeated her, that's a Tislelaw filly for Wesley Ward. And I think she's really coming on as going to be a stakes filly. And I think Triskelion will continue to move forward upon that effort. I thought just the top two in that race were both very promising leaving it. And I'm going to give Triskelion the advantage in race 5 on Saturday.
Yeah, coming out of Kentucky Downs, and they've actually had a really successful meet transitioning over to Keeneland, sharing the current lead in terms of where horses have made their most recent start with Saratoga that have won at Keeneland, sporting 9 victories on the meet. And that's actually amplified by the fact that obviously the Kentucky Downs runners are running on the turf. So their opportunities to potentially win races could be a little bit lesser than a horse coming from Saratoga who's running on both surfaces. So certainly a positive angle this year, the runners coming from Kentucky Downs. Kyle, you're going with a bit of a price play here. And speaking of horses that recently ran at Saratoga, that's where you land.
Yeah, I like Nelson's Penny a lot. I do think Triskelion, James's horse, is the one to beat in here, but I thought I would go for a little bit of value. Look to the inside here for Tom Amoss. I think this filly should improve a lot after getting that first out experience at Saratoga. In her debut, she was green as grass. She's the number 8 in the white silks. She rated the pace well and then just mostly flattened out down the lane. But this race was like a key race because the winner, Quiet Street in here, came back and won the Untappable at Kentucky Downs, and then most recently ran third in the Miss Grillo in New York. The second place finisher in here, Lit Ship, also came back to win a maiden special weight at Kentucky Downs as well. So I just think, this was a really key race, really good turf horses in here. And I think just getting that first race experience under her belt should do her well this coming Saturday.
Yeah, I remember this race with the horse diving to the inside and flying late. The winner there, you mentioned, came back to win again. Key race for sure. Tom Amoss trainee was actually one of the horses that I was looking at as well. So I definitely do think Nelson's Penny is interesting in here at a price.
And I'll also just say real quick about Nelson's Penny. I agree with everything Kyle said about that effort. I thought that was a little like green. I thought that she was green on the far turn, like he said. Had an opportunity to split horses, sort of threw her head up, didn't want to go through, but still finished, I thought, with good energy. The third place finisher, Delightful Darling, is a morning line favorite in race 8 Friday at Belmont at Aqueduct, and she would continue to flatter this race in Nelson's Penny if she wins Friday.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, definitely something to watch on Friday if that race didn't need any more help, but certainly could get it. Yeah, I landed on a first-time starter here in number 7, Map of the Moon. Right now, Liam's Map is just lighting the world on fire recently with some of his runners, and they run on everything. He's got a Grade 1 winner on the turf and deterministic. He's got a Grade 1 winner on dirt and Burnham Square. Just recently had a winner at in the Champagne Stakes, Napoleon Solo, who went around the racetrack in wire-to-wire fashion. And you're getting a look here at Napoleon Solo as well. I mean, Map of the Moon for me, by Liam's Map out of Malibu Pride. She has produced three winners from three starters. One of them won on turf. So obviously, Map of the Moon being by a sire that has thrown a Grade One winner on turf, out of a mare that's thrown a winner on turf. Uh, Map of the Moon is a horse that has been working steadily for the debut. Comes into this off a 47-3 breeze out of the gate, an impressive move there. Was training over the synthetic at Turfway previously with good works there as well. Axel Concepcion gets up for Kelsey Danner, who does win at a 13% clip, debuting runners on turf. But what really is impressive is a massive ROI of over 300% with debuting turf runners. There's a lot of positive angles here for a horse that I think looks very live at first asking in a really tough field.
I also like the fact that Kelsey Danner had two first-time winners on turf last month. She's been doing her barn. She's got some nice 2-year-olds in there. Now, one of them went off 99-1. The other one paid like 40 some dollars. They tend to be overlooked, but she's getting good stock, and she's a good first-out trainer.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I owe you.
Yeah, I was just going to say NBS Stables usually has some really great horses. And as you mentioned, Darin, the Kelsey Danner ROI, I saw that number as well. And it was something in like the $70 for $2 every $2 you wager. So I definitely think it's worth a look at, definitely at 8-1 or higher.
Yeah, a lot of big positive angles here. Hopefully she doesn't run too fast, being by Liam's Map, where the connections are concerned that she runs too fast and they skip a prominent race next time out. But we'll save that for another conversation and move on to the second leg of the pick three, which is an entry level allowance going 1 mile and 3/16 on the turf. So a little bit, not quite a marathon distance, but certainly a route of ground. Kyle, we'll give you the lead off here. Tell us about Johnny's Rendezvous.
Yeah, Johnny's Rendezvous for the Phil Bauer barn, Ghost Zapper Gelding. Finally got on the right track. I think he prefers the longer distances. Last out at Saratoga going 1 1/8. He broke his maiden. And in that race replay, he's a gate to wire winner in this race. He's the number one in here with the Red Silks on the lead of Richard Rigney. Javier asked him down the lane. He kept to the task. Gets the stretch out again today with the 1 mile and 3/16. I think that this race just might have been the light bulb moment for him. Gets 3 works back on the tab. Shows up in this spot today. He's going to have to improve off of this effort because there are some other classy horses in here. But I like the stretch out, and I like the confidence booster that he got up at Saratoga this summer to come back into this spot here today.
Yeah, the number of horses who chase from like a 2 or 3 wide spot on the inner turf at Saratoga that their next time out pop for a nice score. It happens a lot, and that certainly happened with Johnny's Rendezvous here. Tough field. It took him 7 cracks to win, but it wouldn't be the first horse that I saw break through. 7th time the charm, and then like you said, the light bulb goes on and he figures it out. So definitely think he's a viable player in here. James, you landed on a horse at a price here.
I did, and I thought this race came up there. I think you can make a case for a number of these runners in here. One thing about Johnny's Rendezvous, last time, pretty uncontested lead. I'm hoping that he faces some pressure. I'm hoping that Wish Carefully and a couple, even this like a walk-in, if he stays in the field, I think it's going to show speed after that off the turf race. And there's a couple other ones up there. They're going to be sitting close, hopefully trying to make a move in the middle stages of this race. My top pick is number 12, Fort Thomas. I like this. Basically, this is a horse that last year needed plenty of races before breaking through and breaking his maiden. But he started to turn things around last fall, and Rusty Arnold sent him to Kentucky Downs and ran him in a 1 mile and 5/16 race. And then off of that race, he ran, I thought, a good second at Keeneland next out, going 1 mile and 1/8. And he continued to improve upon that effort, breaking his maiden the following start at Churchill Downs. We'll see him come charging from way off the pace here with Julian Leperoux. to be second this day. But this year, he basically got a freshening. Came back, I thought, 2 starts back at Ellis Park with a respectable third-place effort. And then Rusty stretched him a mile and a half last time in a tough allowance race at Kentucky Downs. That distance was a little bit too far, but I do think it will leg him up for an improved effort, cutting back to a mile and 3/16 on Saturday. And like I said, I'm hoping he gets the right pace set up. I see this jockey switch to Florent Giroux, and I know that Rusty Arnold made a jockey switch a few weeks ago on Plenza and put Florent up on him, and they won a grade 1 stake at 22-1, or won a graded stake at 22-1 at Kentucky Downs. I'm hoping for the same kind of result in this allowance race, an upset win from off the pace with Fort Thomas.
Definitely going to get a big number on him too, as well. If you could forgive that last race and he gets an honest pace set up at a good route of ground, why not include him at a price? I have a little bit of value here, 6-1 morning line with Warlander for Steve Asmussen. Obviously, Asmussen's been pretty high on this horse because he spotted him really ambitiously at a couple of points of his career. He went into the Bourbon off a win in a maiden special weight at Kentucky Downs, where he ran fine. He ran 5th that day in a field of 12, took a little bit of money, went to the sidelines, came back, was a little bit flat in an allowance, and then they went to the American Turf with him, which was a very ambitious decision. Things obviously on that day did not go well. And it's kind of taken him a little bit of time, I think, to get his sea legs under him since that. The thing I really like here in this most recent effort at Kentucky Downs, they put the blinkers on him, and I thought there was significant improvement with the blinkers going on last time. He made an aggressive move here, going the mile and 5/16 distance of ground. It's going to be number 10 in here. He was favored in this spot, so he was expected to perform well. But I really like when you make an equipment change, like putting the blinkers on, and the horse jumps up with an improved effort. He gets into a battle throughout the stretch here at this race that was a 16th of a mile longer than a mile and a quarter. And he's going to fight tooth and nail all the way down to the wire and grudgingly give way and get beat less than a length for all the money. But I thought this was a really good sign that this horse is cycling forward in this spot. And cutting back to the mile and 3/16 from the mile and 5/16, I think is going to work to his advantage as well. And he's a horse that, I think they've probably had to figure out a little bit, probably tinkered with some things. They've now made the equipment change. And I think in this spot, if he gets first run on some of the deep closers, I think he's got a lot of appeal at anything close to that 6-1 morning line.
Yeah, I thought that effort you referenced in the Bourbon was very respectable. I mean, look at that race. I mean, the top 3 finishers all came back and won their next start out of it, and he gets beat 3 lengths that day. Yeah, you made a lot of good points. He's got this tactical ability as well. You get Jose Ortiz on him, and Jose got off to a terrible start last week, but he's turned things around. I think won a race yesterday. I know he's won like 2 of the first 4 or 5 races on the Thursday card today. So I think he's starting to ride better at Keeneland this October, and Warlander's definitely a serious contender.
Yeah, I think if you go back and look at some of the horses that Warlander's been running against, Zulu Kingdom, Minaret Station, Golden Afternoon, Macero, I mean, the list goes on and on. I think that, probably class-wise, he's probably been facing the toughest out of anyone in this field.
Yep, definitely a part of why I like him as well. So hopefully we get a square enough number on him in the middle leg of this Turf Pick 3, which wraps up with what is honestly one of my favorite races of the year. I don't know why, but I've always loved the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. It's a grade 1 event, going a mile and an eighth for the 3-year-old fillies. It's race number 9 on the program. And these 3-year-old turf fillies have been exceptional this year. There's a lot of different fillies that we could talk about in this division. You get a couple of the horses in this spot that are coming off of sensational efforts as well. James, we'll start with you here. Laurelin, undefeated. You're looking for it to stay that way.
I am. I think this has been a dynamite 3-year-old filly turf division all year. I mean, even in California, there's been some nice runners out there, but certainly on the East Coast and Midwest. And, Laurelin's a filly that entered this year 2 for 2. She really, I thought, worked hard to win the Memories of Silver stakes in her comebacker at Aqueduct. And then the Pennsylvania Oaks was sort of running a bog. And she was under a drive to get up in that race. But I thought she took a step forward in that Saratoga Oaks. I thought that was a more professional, more, authoritative type performance where she's really like coming into her own for Graham Motion. Right, I just think she's going to lay it all on the line too. I mean, one thing about all of her races is that she tries hard and she'll finish. And I think based on her last effort, you can make the case that she's peaking right now. So it's a tall task in this race. I got a lot of respect for Fionn. I think her stablemate Destino D'Oro is a bounce back candidate. Lush Lips is obviously dangerous, and others. But I'm going to go with the undefeated horse, Laurelyn, and I hope her price isn't too short. I actually think she'll be the second choice behind Fionn.
Yeah, remains to be seen if I don't think the connections would necessarily go to the Breeders' Cup off a win. It comes back pretty quick in 3 weeks, and you got to face older horses in there, and you have to think that with maybe a potential 4-year-old campaign next year, that when the race is on the East Coast, that might be something that Laurelyn looks at. And this is, like you said, the grade 1 at the end of the year for the 3-year-old fillies on the turf. This is certainly the race that they've circled on the calendar and that they're going to be all in for. So I certainly expect her to show up with her best. And there's another filly in here that could show up with her best because she seemingly always does. And it's the other favorite, Kyle.
Yeah, Fionn, she was my best bet back on May 31st in the Grade 3 Regret. I just thought that stretch out would make the total difference in her, and it did. She won the Regret, then the Belmont Oaks Invitational, and then most recently the Dueling Ground Oaks at Kentucky Downs. In the Belmont Oaks Invitational, which we're watching here, she's the number 5 in the red cap. Nitrogen was a 2-5 favorite in this race, and she sat right off the pace and then just let all the speed go in front of her. And then when Flavian asked her down the lane, she just started rolling and ultimately beating Nitrogen by just, the slimmest margins of a nose. But then most recently after this race, she won the Dueling Ground Oaks at Kentucky Downs, going that mile and a 5/16. I think she does all of her running in the stretch, so the trip is going to have to set up perfectly for her to capitalize off of it. There is some speed in this race for her to chase down, but the pace scenario is a question mark that I do have. But my pick is going to be on Fionn here.
Yeah, I can't listen to nothing about her that I could possibly knock, just like I can't knock anything with Laurelyn either. I think they're the two that you need to beat. But there is a filly in this race that I have been a huge fan of for some time, and I'm going to get a big number on her just because there's a lot of other good fillies in here that are going to take money. I love Candy Quest. She's been a filly that I've liked since last fall when I watched her debut at the Belmont at Aqueduct Fall Meet. In her career, she's never run a bad race. Her race in the Ontario Colleen, where she made a huge move in the stretch, I thought was pretty eye-opening. And then she went into the Dueling Ground Oaks at Kentucky Downs, the race that was won by Fionn that you just talked about. And Candy Quest is only going to get beat half a length by her here. And she made a super aggressive move to go from 11th to 1st in a quarter of a mile. And Fionn had to really work to get the better of her in the stretch. I thought this was a sensational effort by a filly that flies under the radar. Doesn't have necessarily quite the name of some of the others, and Fionn just kind of outgamed her to the wire. But now, cutting back from the mile and 5/16 to the mile and an eighth, that move that she made there, I think wins this race. And when you take a look at it, I mean, she gave Fionn everything she could handle there. And she was 16-1 that day. She's going to be 10, 12-1 here. Fionn is going to be 5-2, 3-1. So I'll gladly take 4 to 5 times the price on a horse that ran all the way to the wire with one of the favorites in here. Like I said, I maybe I'm a little bit too close to this filly because I have been a fan of hers for quite some time, but I think she's another one that's sitting on a really good effort at a big number.
Yeah, the one thing I like about her over Fionn is that she doesn't really have to be super far off the pace. She can sit right up there with him, whereas Fionn is more pace dependent.
I also like the fact that here she is knocking heads against Fionn and Laurelyn and definitely performing respectably in all 3 recent efforts. But in between there, Cassie ships her to the Grade 3 Ontario Cotillion, and she records a convincing win. This filly is poised to potentially break through, and I could see your points, Darin.
Yeah. We'll take the number and hope that it stays. I think by default it has to, because
Yeah.
there's only so much money that could go around. On Opulent Restraint has to take money. The top two have to take money. She's got to.
Castillo Dilro is going to take money.
Yeah.
She
So
was 4-5 against Fionn last time against Irad on Saturday.
and Lush Lips is going to take a little bit of money too. So just
Yeah.
my goal here is that I'm on the filly that's going to get overlooked and provide a bit of value and be an overlay in a very contentious and great edition of the QE2. It is worth mentioning that Will Then is also entered in a stake race up at Woodbine, where I think she's the morning line favorite. It would make a lot of sense for her to run there, but I haven't seen anything one way or the other. But just keep that in mind when you're handicapping the QE2. Let's talk about some promotions that we got coming up this weekend at TwinSpires. A couple of great ones. One is ongoing right now. If you are a tournament or a contest player, we have a great offer where you have an opportunity to get 5% back on your BCBC seat purchase. If you opt into the offer and make $3,000 worth of wagers between October the 1st and October 26th, including tournament wagers, then you will be eligible to get $500 back on your BCBC seat purchase if you make that purchase with us at TwinSpires. So if you're going to play in the BC, you're going to buy a seat, and you're a player out there that you know you're going to bet $3,000 this month, especially if you're including tournament play, it makes a ton of sense to opt in here and get your BCBC seat with us to get that $500 back. And that $500 will be returned to your account in the form of cash on Saturday morning of Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. So a huge benefit to the contest players. And then for everybody, bet back option for this weekend at Keeneland for their great cards as usual. Up to $10 back on the selected races if your horses run second or third. So be on the lookout to see which races have been selected and bet those with a little bit more confidence. It's a huge tournament weekend as well. Kind of the penultimate leading up to the BCBC. The Keeneland Fall Challenge is this weekend. It's a $3,500 contest. It features BCBC seats, NHC seats, and also seats to our very own Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. 3 of those will be given away in this contest as well. You can buy your seat and play with us with confidence on Saturday at TwinSpires. And on Sunday, we've got a big qualifier of our own. It includes Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seats and the first opportunity to win seats to the Clark Betting Challenge, kind of one of those mid-majors that we throw out there on Clark Day at the end of November. So there'll be a lot of seats on the line. That will take place on the Sunday card at Keeneland. So great tournament action, great promotions, as usual, brought to you by TwinSpires. All right, let's get back to the handicapping, guys. And Kyle, we'll kick off with you. You scoured all the past performances this weekend. Tell us the favorite you like the least.
Yeah, the least I'm gonna like here is race number 2 at Keeneland. It's a 20,000 non-2 lifetime event going 6 furlongs. I'm looking to the number 8 Kunan, who's 5-2 on the morning line for Brad Cox and Irad Ortiz, and I understand why the colt ends up being the morning line favorite, especially with the connections. However, I do have my concerns. The colt has never raced on the dirt. He hasn't been seen since March. Last time out, he ran second in a starter 50 back at Turfway. The connections opt to skip going back to a starter 50, and they decided to drop him straight in for 20. This Omaha Beach colt, he's all early speed. There's plenty of other early speed in this race too, like the number 2 Memes, the number 7 Silver Halo, the number 3 Geno's Myth, and I just see that this race turning into an absolute pace meltdown, and I just do not think Kunan warrants that 5-2 morning line price.
Yep. I can't knock it. Certainly a couple of good angles there. I don't love when horses come back off the long layoff like this. Have shown some potential. They come back for 20,000. I call that a little bit of a yellow flag myself.
Yeah, and he really has the potential to be overbet as well. Sure. I mean, bet way down for 5-2.
Yeah, Irad and Brad Cox are 5-2 in the morning line. You probably end up 4-5 maybe at post time.
Well, less than 2-1 for sure.
James, you're going to head out to the West Coast. You got something at Santa Anita that you're looking forward to playing against.
I'm gonna go to the finale on Saturday's program at the Great Race Place. It's a allowance optional claimer on the turf going 1 1/8. And my favorite against is the number 3 Old Pal. I do think he'll be a solid favorite in this race over City Exile and others. This will be his first start since winning the Turf Classic in January. And believe me, old pal is 4 for 8 on the Santa Anita turf. But the one reason I'm fading him in here is because I like his stablemate better. Number 2, Allegato has, kept, has raced before against old pal and held his own. And I just like his comebacker. He has a terrific comebacker at Del Mar on August 2nd, Allegato, where he ran second that day. I think he'll, in a stake race, he adds blinkers. I think he'll improve. So I'm going to take a stand against the favorite off of a lengthy layoff in there and play against him with his stablemate in the finale at Santa Anita Saturday.
Yeah, I like the fade, and I like the fact that you gave us a good alternative to the favorite as well. So kudos on that. Yeah, I was looking at a bunch of tracks on Saturday, and unfortunately, morning lines weren't out yet, and I would have felt silly if I ended up fading a horse that was not a short price. So I looked at Friday at Keeneland and found a horse that I want to play against. Race number 7 is an entry-level allowance on Friday, going a mile and 3/16 on the turf. And the morning line favorite is Vina Arana, who's coming in off of a 14-month layoff. When last seen, this horse was impressively winning a maiden special weight, going 1 mile over the inner turf at Saratoga. Good race. Anytime a horse wins from well off the pace on the inner turf at Saratoga, I tip my hat to them. But this filly has now been to the sidelines for 14 months. They started back with her in the wintertime down at Gulfstream Park. They had a stop on her again after April and now started back up with her again. So that gives me some cause for concern. She's never gone more than a mile, and she's coming back off an extended layoff, being asked to go a mile and 3/16, which is something else that I am certainly not, supremely fond of. And I just think there's other options to go to here. I mean, nothing jumps off the page at me, but I thought Unmerited Favor was interesting off a win at Kentucky Downs, a horse that is clearly sharpening up right now for Kenny McPeek. And if you draw a line through the dirt race at Ellis and you take a look at the last 3 turf races, all of them are quite good. I thought Fleetingly off a good third place effort when rallying from off the pace over the inner turf at Saratoga is another one that was pretty interesting as well. And there's just a lot of different ways that you can go in this particular spot. So for me, given a lot of the uncertainty, the unknowns around Vina Arana, she's going to certainly take money, I think. I think she's a favorite that I could confidently play against on Friday.
I mean, I didn't go back and watch that race, but it looks like that race completely fell apart. And I mean, I agree. It couldn't be more difficult, seemingly, take a filly. She could have come back in a turf sprint, seemingly, and then stretched out, given that she had run twice at 7 furlongs and twice at a mile. But to come back off a 413-day layoff and stretch out to a mile and 3/16, and which is a pretty competitive entry-level allowance at Keeneland, is a tall task.
I completely agree with what James was going to say.
All right. We're all on board. I like it. All right. Well, that is a wrap for us on the jury as we got through this week pretty well. Best of luck to everybody on their wagers, Keeneland and elsewhere this weekend. If you're interested in that Turf Pick 3, certainly hope we gave you some good guidance there. So on behalf of James and Kyle, we'll see you again, another edition of the jury next week on Thursday.